after
What's up,
winning
Hammer?
4 in a row.
Yeah.
And that other than that, I mean, that 4-7 stretch then was probably their worst stretch all year, and it coincided with no Malik Monk. So those who think that Malik Monk, they once again, they may not have been great, but 500 would have got you. Well, that's 11 games, so you wouldn't have been 500, but that would have gotten you into the 6 seed.
Hammer, we're looking back at the top 20 games of the Kings season. We just went over one of the many Kings victories against the Lakers. It was just after Huerter got hurt. Malik hadn't been hurt yet. Keon was starting. And I posed the question because KC said that win against the Lakers, like they were in like the 7th spot or something like that. And I asked, do you think we maybe romanticize the what if Malik hadn't gotten hurt a little bit because they had played kind of without their footing? It felt like a lot during the season. They were constantly, it seemed, trying to figure different things out. And we just kind of lean on the, oh, if Malik had been healthy, it would have been different. Or are you of the belief if Malik had been healthy, it might have been a little bit different?
No, I think if he had Malik, it would have been a little bit different. And I don't know a lot different, but we're talking 1 or 2 games is the difference between you being, in the play-in or you having home court or you beating a team that may have helped get New Orleans into the playoffs so you wouldn't have had to play them.
That's a
Like,
good point, too. How could you have avoided New Orleans if you won 2 more games?
Right.
yeah, I think that that's going to be the biggest thing is how do you avoid the one team that for some reason you couldn't beat? Well, there's 2. It's them and the Houston Rockets. So
Mm.
whatever the problem was, whatever the formula is there, that was a problem for the Kings all season long. But yeah, I don't want to like make it all on the fact that Malik got hurt, but I think Malik getting hurt in combination with Herter getting hurt,
Yeah.
it did matter. It mattered a lot. We've talked about this so many times. That's 25 points a game, but it's also 8 assists per game. And when you take away secondary playmakers, when you take away the guys that are taking the pressure off of De'Aaron Fox, it really allowed defenses just to focus on him so much. And, Mike had no choice but to run him out there for nearly 40 minutes a night trying to get something done. That doesn't really help you when all the focus is on him. So, yeah, I think it did impact them, and whether it's enough to be a playoff team or not, I don't know. Hindsight or whatever, we have no way to predict that. And I would at least like to have seen it go a different way and see how it played out.
James, the game that we're talking about that's number 19 was the March 13th game against the Lakers at home. It was the ESPN game. Ironically, they had just beat up on the Bucks. They had lost the game. What game did they lose before that? Before the Bucks game, they had a bad.
Detroit?
They lost to Houston. They
Oh.
lost to Houston on a Sunday. I remember that, and they were like, "Oh, now you're facing Milwaukee and the Lakers coming to town." 129-94 against the Bucks, beat the
Mhm.
brakes off them,
Mhm.
and in a back-to-back, beat the Lakers on national TV. One of the things that kind of stood out as I was watching that game over again was Keon Ellis started. Keon Ellis looked really good, like as a starter. And it's one of these things that happens when you go back and watch these games. You kind of forget, at least maybe I do. You forget, like, there's a reason there's a conversation about Keon starting because he seems to fit with these guys. And, I think he had 14 points in that game. He can knock down a shot. He was 3 of 5 from beyond the arc in that game. And I don't know, it just re-sparked the idea of, if they did go with the Keon starting at the 2, I think that'd be a good look too. Do you remember
Yeah.
much about that game at all, or like how it went?
Well, look,
No. Sorry, James, go ahead.
I would say most games bleed in together for me. So no, off the top of my head, I don't. I mean, I can look at the box score and remember the game where the Kings just
Malik Monk died
absolutely
in that
Malik
they
Monk
ran
did
him
die.
over in the third.
We
Yeah, they
just
ran him over in the third quarter.
Malik
did.
died in the game. We just watched the clip where he ran into, I guess, AD's like abdomen or something and just died. Like he fell face first.
Said, "Hey, bro."
He laid on the ground face first without moving for several seconds before Domas just kind of hit him like, "Hey, boy, what is going on?" And
That's
Malik
wild.
slowly rolled over and miraculously came back to life. So
Yeah.
he was dead for a brief moment.
Yeah, like, look, all of these games, they kind of bleed in together for me, and I would like to tell you I could break each of them down. Kenny, your memory works a lot better that way than mine does. But this is one of those stretches of the season where you started to see the Kings get contributions from everybody. And there's even, Chris Huerter in that game coming up with two big threes. There are little pieces to the puzzle that seem to be happening for the team around that time in the season. And then of course the wheels fall off the bus a little bit down the stretch. But yeah, it like they had a lot of like really, really high level wins and a back to back like that against the Bucks and then the Lakers. That's about as good as it gets, especially with all the exposure and all of what's running up against you, at that point in the season where you have to win games. So yeah, good game.
It would have. There's this season. The Kings season is filled with fascinating what ifs, but Herter going out, Keon starting, and Malik staying healthy, I think is a fascinating what if. Because they had won a couple of games with Keon Ellis as the starter. And you know what Malik can provide. What would that have meant for last year? And maybe just as importantly, what would that mean for this year? Losing both of them is so tough because it feels like it leaves multiple unanswered questions. Losing Herter, and that's a lot to overcome when you lose, basically your entire two guard depth.
Right. You were saying that in the moment that like you lost everything almost.
Yeah, but having Keon with Malik as the guy coming off the bench still being the spark would probably have gone a long way in helping Mike understand, if he doesn't already, what he should do this year. It creates a completely different type of picture, in my opinion, Hammer.
Yeah, and I would point out too, so like we remember that Keon, the first 7 games that Keon started, the Kings won last year, and they won 9 of the first 10 that he started. The first time they lost was they lost to Washington on March 21st, which is still a stunning loss. That's like they should have won. If they could have won that, they would have won the first 10 games he started. But then if you get past that, they lost the first game to Denver. It's to Dallas. It's in the second game against Dallas that Malik Monk gets hurt, and that's where Keon has to play like incredible minutes. He played 38 minutes, 4 of 9 from 3. But from that point on, you can kind of track and see what it was that happened, with this team, how they handled the stress of the remainder of the season. Am I way off with this? Oh no, that's just starts. Yeah. So, um, yeah, I don't think we're way off by thinking uh, that Malik Monk and Keon down the stretch would have made an impact. To having those 3 guards in your rotation would have, with Fox, would have made some sort of impact. But I also think that the injury to Herter, followed by the injury to Monk, it really did open the door for you to give Keon a full test drive and really look and see who and what he is as a player and how he can impact the game going forward. And I think, like, from my point of view, where I sit in the building, I thought he did enough to warrant at least a really, really strong opportunity to win the starting job. Whether Mike feels that way or whether the front office feels the way, I don't know.
And that
No,
was kind of my question: is the fact that both of them got injured might have created more questions than answers.
Mm. Yeah.
That's a real point. And the thing about that is, and I know Mike and the whole staff have done this stuff, but I know just me going back and watching these games, Keon, you see it. You see how it
Mhm.
fits. You
Mhm.
see what he brings to the table. I mean, he was harassing D'Angelo Russell and making his life a living hell, and he can hit the spot up shot, and it's like, man, it just spaces the floor out even more. We think of him as like this, just a defender. Like, no, he can shoot. Like, you talk about spacing the floor, he can do that. And as I was watching that game, I was trying to figure out like where the minutes come from for all those guys, like with DeRozan out there. Who's minute? I guess Harrison would be the easy choice, but like how are they going to all play together? because they all bring a lot to the table. And I think if you can find a way, if Mike Brown can find a way to balance out the playing time and get those guys in there, that's another way they can be dynamic as a team with having these different guys who are explosive in their own right. Like, I'm not saying Keon's going to go for 40 one night, but leave him open if you want to. He's going to hit damn near every three if you do that. And it's just the opportunities seem endless if you can find a way to get everybody in a groove and in a consistent consistent playing time.
Yeah, what I like about Keon too is for as much as Malik brings this incredible energy on the offensive end and is this huge spark plug, I feel like Keon brings that on the defensive end. And, every time you look at Keon, unless he's looking at the official with like his giant eyes, like claiming he didn't foul somebody, which he does a lot. But there's just like an energy and a force that he plays with, even for a skinny guy. He's running around, he's getting in the way, he's kind of wreaking havoc, he's forcing bad passes that De'Aaron Fox just totally took advantage of the whole way down the stretch. Um, he's defending the toughest guy. And so these are, adding to the resume of reasons why I would choose him as my starting shooting guard, even if he's only playing 18 to 20 minutes a game. That doesn't matter. For me, it's about setting you've got offensive tone setters for this team, right? You've got Sabonis, you've got Fox, you've got DeMar DeRozan. What you need is defensive tone setters as well, and I think Keegan Murray is one of those guys, and I think Fox is one of those guys on occasion, but I think Keon is always that guy. He's a guy who comes in and again, there's like an abundance of joy and energy that he plays with, and you never see a game where he doesn't look like he's 100% engaged and ready to play and ready to bring some sort of energy. And that's something that, we can talk about like first quarter bad starts that this team has had for years. Third quarter bad starts. I don't think you had nearly as many of those with Keon in the rotation and in the starting lineup, just because that's who he is. He brings like this spark, this energy that is contagious.
So I want to make sure I heard you right. If it was up to you, would Keon be the starter to start the season at 2?
Yeah. Yeah, and that's not a knock on Kevin Huerter
I got you.
or anyone else.
I don't even think the reasons need to be explained. Like, I think at this point, everybody understands. The only name, and this is super unfair, I feel like the only name that might get a reaction from Kings fans would be actually if Huerter started. Because I know we have talked about it and like it's not impossible and laid out the reasons why. I think some people would be like, wait, why?
Right.
After what? Not that get Kevin Huerter out of here. It's like what we saw what Keon did. We know what Malik can do. Why are we going back to Kevin? Because it's collectively our decision. Why are we going back to Kevin?
Well, I'd even say that the Devin Carter injury, it plays into this as well. Like it's almost like they were looking for a higher end version of Keon, a guy who, sort of stakes his claim as like a great defender, but also a great rebounder. And, like Devin Carter brings a lot to the table, but it almost feels like they were bringing him in to back up Fox or to maybe be a long-term answer at the 2. And for me, I like Keon's a bigger player. He doesn't have the ball handling skills. He's not a playmaker like what you're going to find in a Devin Carter. But I do think he's probably a better fit, like overall. And so I don't know. There's a point where we can all acknowledge that the Kings won 48 games and were an incredible offensive juggernaut with Kevin Huerter starting almost every single game the year before. So I don't think is that Kevin Huerter did anything wrong. I just think that at a certain point, if you change a certain dynamic or two of this team, which they did when they brought in DeMar DeRozan, like you have to support that change the right way. And that means that you have to find players that will play defense at a high level. You will have to find players that don't need to handle the ball, that don't need to go play make and who are, hiding on the perimeter ready to shoot threes. And that's Keon way more than it's Kevin. And again, I think Kevin Huerter can have a huge role on this team, but I also believe that, Keon Ellis can too, and that he can also be your best defensive perimeter defender. Like I think he can be that, and so we'll have to see how it all plays out. I'm intrigued because this is what makes it so difficult for a coach. It's like, how do you put all these pieces in place and find success for everybody, make everybody the best version of themselves? And it's one of the most difficult things to do, especially at the NBA level, just because there's only so many minutes to go around, and you got to find ways to maximize everybody that you have. But for me, again, I think Keon just fits in a way that, like so many players, like a Danny Green fit with Philadelphia, or Danny Green with the Lakers, or Danny Green with the Spurs, or Bruce Bowen with the Spurs. Like those are players that just have tremendous value in just staying within the confines of themselves and being extremely good at what they do and not trying to do too much.
Poor guy. I always do this. I forget about Devin Carter. I really do, and that's because it seems like a stacked backcourt as it is, and then you add in a guy who's your first round pick, number 13 pick in the draft. People love him. There's so many things that people expect him to bring to the table. It's like, man,
Black Supreme Air Force energy.
Well, make sure you say Supreme.
That's what I said. That's what I said.
You don't want any problems with Devin Carter. But I mean, I'm thinking about this in my head with the injury and everything. Is this a potential red shirt year for Devin Carter? You think he finds a way? Like if the Kings are what we think they could be this year, a potential top 4 team or whatever the case may be, when he comes back and he's ready to play, is he taking any minutes from anybody at that point?
It just depends on how the team's playing. Like realistically, there is a way in which he does get redshirted. I don't think that that's the plan today. I think that they would love to have him in the fold, but you got to remember, like he's not getting cleared. He's not being reevaluated until January, and that means that once he's reevaluated, like he's going to have to figure out how to get on the court for practice time, and then get elevated to the point where he can take contact and all that. So we're talking about like that mid to late January moment where he might be able, if he is cleared and he starts to get back on the court, that's in the middle of that crazy long road trip where, the Kings are going to have a tough time either way. Right. So I think it's going to be a while, especially it's not like he's going to play training camp and then sit out for a bunch of time and then try to get back into game shape or something. Like he's missing everything. He's missing everything from, a month and a half ago until January. And that's not a good way to start off. You want to be on the court. You want to be playing 5-on-5 with your teammates, getting a feel for De'Aaron Fox and all the other players that you're going to play with. And he's just not getting any of that.
I think it's okay that we don't talk about him right now because he's not going to be a part of the start of the season. It's not disrespectful. It's just like there's nothing you can really do. Mm-hmm. Like it'll be potentially a great addition, and that's another complicated thing that Mike has to navigate. We talked about the complications of Huerter's timetable. While it doesn't interfere with the regular season at all, it interferes with training camp, and like that's gonna I would think affect how Mike does things for the first half of training camp and then the second half of training camp. Same is probably true to a certain degree with Devin Carter, working him in at practice, getting him ready, for that return date in January or February or whatever it winds up being. But as James noted, how is the team playing? And is it something where you're like, you just got to, sorry, kid. You're just kind of there. Like, it's not an indictment of you. It's just the way that things are going right now. That's all it is. Yeah, that's all it is. And, maybe there's still scenarios where you could find ways to work him in and do all this different stuff. But it's a tough battle for him, for sure.
Yeah, and I would point out, too, like, we don't know what Jordan McLaughlin is going to look like for this team. Like, there's a possibility he's just really, really solid. And, like what he did last year for Minnesota where, dude shot like 45% from 3. Like he knew his role And there is something about knowing your role, and there's also something about coming into the league and having no idea what your role is and how to play to a role, which is, I think, a problem that Devin Carter's going to have early in his career. Just like, let's be honest, like Colby Jones had a really tough time trying to figure out, like, who am I and where do I fit in? And then there's one other thing I want to point out, which is maybe it's just me. I don't know, but like when the Kings sent out the press release for the Kevin Huerter update, they go through. It starts at Kings forward Kevin Huerter continues to progress through the return to play process. He has been cleared for on-court workout, shooting drills, and complete strength training. He will be reevaluated in mid-October, prior to being cleared for full contact and contact court activity.
That press release just beat your ass live on the radio.
It was absolutely horrible. But did you guys catch
all of us? You know what got me reading it is the return to play process. That's one long phrasing, the return to play process, and it confused me every time I saw it. So I was glad to see that.
Okay, but can I read the first two words of the whole thing to you again?
Yeah.
Kings forward, Kevin Huerter.
Oh, I see you. Okay, I see you. Yep. I see you. No, starting two guard. Yep. Kings forward.
He started 2 years as your starting shooting guard. And that's the press release you put out?
So are you thinking DeMar at 2?
Or Keon at the 2 with Malik Monk backing him up and Kevin Huerter as a 3? Like, I don't know. I'm just looking around. I'm just reading the press release.
DeMar?
DeMar at the 3. Kevin Huerter coming off the bench.
Got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So like maybe I'm reading something into that, but like starting guard or King's guard or King's shooting guard, like any of those things would have made me go, huh, all right, Kevin Huerter. When you put King's forward, I'm like,
And honestly, guys, I think that's the way to go. To go. Have him as your backup
hybrid.
3. And at the very least, that's how we start the season. See how that goes. Okay. See if he can hang as a backup 3, if you can work the minutes in and do all this other stuff. Because one of the reasons why I feel that way is because you can't not have Keon in the rotation, in my opinion.
Right.
So the way that you do that and keep Kevin Huerter playing is he turns into like a 3.
Okay. We'll come back. We'll talk more about this with James. We'll also get James's thoughts on a second professional sports franchise in Sacramento. Which one would he pick? Steelo and Casey here on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320. BP, I see you. I think you might be taking the show a little bit too seriously in saying that we're being hard on Devin Carter when I think we're just making a joke out of his love of Supreme Air Forces. So I just know, like, I see you, read all your comments. I think you might be taking us a smidge bit too seriously. Remember, when all else fails, D'Lo and Casey is a work.
What Joe say?
We're sports entertainment.
What's the disclaimer Joe says? You need to create one for the show.
Oh, what is the line at the do not take us seriously? I don't remember.
For entertainment purposes.
Yeah.
Nothing we say is real.
Yeah.
Nothing we say is serious.
Yeah. And as Drew Down says, if nothing else, just go watch Friday's show. It's just brought up BP because it's all we got on him right now, and it's just the gag. His Supreme Air Forces. That's all it is. It's just a gag, bro. That's all it is. It's like Kenny's Jerry Jones impressions. It's just a running bit. That's all it is.
Just having a good time.
It's all love for Devin Carter.
Perfectly honest, I don't.
I doubt you misunderstood
a bit. I mean, I'm here every day trying to make sure we do what we have to do to win a Super Bowl.
I believe we got an official freeze during the commercial break. By the way, 329. Did anyone have 329? This is an official James Ham freeze at 329. Ham is frozen. He will unthaw shortly. Very angry. There he is, unhappy.
Yeah, we're like a month away from Kyle telling Devin Carter's got to come home.
Well, I mean, I see it too. I think he's got a couple years. He's got that Trey Lance because Trey Lance, you see it happening. I don't know what that looks like.
What's up, Andrew? Thanks for the love on the radio. Radio goes a long way.
There we go.
You excited your boy takes the field tomorrow, Hammer?
Oh, yeah. I love the NFL. I can't wait. Yep. Super excited. And tomorrow's our 1 year of the Insiders.
Oh, excellent.
We're doing
5th,
a live show, invited everybody in, and there will be food. No.
Oh, almost you kicked out at the last second, James. You were nearly frozen. Well, that's exciting. 1 year of the Insiders, man. That's terrific.
It's crazy.
Terrific. Zabo, I'm not sure. I'm gonna try to get KC and Jesse to SmackDown. I might stay back with Complex that Friday. I think Complex has had about enough of recording stuff.
We had a fun day today with bringing all those dudes in from the fantasy draft yesterday. That's why we had.
Oh yeah, so I was wondering why the screen was up. Who came in here? Like people here?
Yeah, we had Abe and Ken.
Oh, nice.
In the afternoon, in the second hour. In the first hour, we had Charlie and we had Andy. Fuck.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Ken got the smoothest damn radio delivery. He is just as cool as the other side of the pillow, as Great Stuart Scott used to say.
Abe is just a bundle of energy. He is so much fun.
He's got a lot of great ideas too. He's really sharp in this game.
Yeah.
Coming back, Hammer.
All right.
Head over to maptrition.com. Use the promo code DLO1320. Grab that essentials pack. Get 10% off of it. Of course, you can order anything you want to. If you just want some protein shakes, they could do that for you. You want the greens, powders, sleep enhancers. You want those cravings crushers that I take every day. They go a really long way. You could do that. Fat burner strength enhancers. I take all of that stuff, and I am being genuine with you when I say it works fantastic for me. In addition to the all-day BCAAs and the pre-workout BCAAs, those got me on point right now. Maptrition.com. Use the promo code DLO1320. Lots more really, really exciting things coming with Train with Map here in the coming days. Back here with James Ham, talking a lot about Keon Ellis and kind of that starting two guard, maybe the backup three position for Kevin Huerter, talking a lot about the Sacramento Kings. James, I want to bring you into a conversation we were having just before you joined us. The WNBA is expanding. They're headed back to Portland, which is annoying because Portland had a illustrious run in the WNBA for 2 seasons with the often remembered and just warmingly regarded Portland Fire.
Oh yeah, we love them. Do you remember a player from Portland Fire?
No, I absolutely do not.
Don't either.
I do not.
Man.
But we were trying to figure out, with the WNBA's growth, what is the, like, as Kenny calls it, the sweet spot for teams with that league. And Kenny thinks it's 20. We have at least committed to 15 with 3 joining over the course of the next couple of years. We were trying to work ways to get Sacramento back into, the conversation for the WNBA. And then it sparked another conversation of, if you had the opportunity to add a second sports franchise, what sport would it be? Would it be the WNBA? Would it be Major League Baseball? Or would it be MLS?
Man, it's tough. I think, like, popular.
I don't think the NFL is expanding, so we just might be out of luck there.
Yeah. I think for me, it would be Major League Baseball. and it's because what we're going to see here over the next couple of years, not only do I think will be like a really fun brand of baseball, even if they aren't like World Series type team, I still think that they're going to be really fun. They've got a nice young core coming up, and I think that that's going to really light a fire under the city with regards to baseball. In the same way that I think soccer did. I think it's a bummer that Major League Soccer has missed and missed and missed and missed, and MLS, like they announced and then they like have taken it back, and like the fact that they couldn't get the big whale, and then I mean, from everything I hear now, like they've got an investor that not only would be willing to buy the team and be one of those whales, but also build an arena, build a stadium. But have you missed the boat type deal? And then with WNBA, I mean, I think we're at the beginning of the WNBA's real rise to prominence. And, I think it's been a stellar league forever. I think that the play, but we're at the moment where, um, women's soccer like had this moment in the late 90s, early 2000s with Brandy Chastain having this like incredible moment where all of a sudden, everyone started watching women's soccer for a while. And I just think that we're at that moment with the WNBA there, and they just, I wish they would have been able to expand like 2, 3 years ago and start growing out bigger then, so then they could take full advantage of this right now. But I think the television contract is gonna pave the way for them to be a much larger force. And I really wish that they could get the Monarchs back, because that's, I think, the easiest one. Like the
Mhm.
Monarchs, you just put them on the schedule, like,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Like
Yeah.
you got to figure out a way to build a couple of locker rooms in the building, but even that, I think is totally possible. I think they have it set up where maybe
Well,
they
if
can
they
even
can
do that.
add 2 new lounges every year, I'm sure they
No,
can figure out a way to add a locker room.
absolutely.
You go down
New
trying to go to the bathroom. I'm sorry, where the hell did this come from?
Yeah,
This is lounge like dripping in gold. Like, where did this was not here when
That's
we
a good
left.
call. That happens every year.
Every single year. Well, we can find a
yeah.
locker room.
I mean, that again, it's turnkey, right? All you have to do
Yeah.
is somebody has
Yep.
to say, "Hey, we'll write the check," and away you go. I just don't know that that's, again, Vivek's attention is taken towards baseball right now, and rightfully so. He's on I mean, he's landing a major league team for at least 3 years, and probably and a good chance of a lot more than that. But there's also potential for this to be the permanent home of the Sacramento A's. And I don't care what Major League Baseball wants me to call it or not. I mean, they're the Sacramento A's. They're going to be here for 3 years. That's good enough. They're going to play all their home games here. So I think the baseball is just closer. But I love what's happening with the WNBA. And, Dame, what's your thought on the WNBA and its growth? Because I know you're like an old school WNBA guy, but are you like the way that it's happening? I think it feels uncomfortable for some people and perfectly fine for others. And there's like this combative thing with Caitlin Clark and everything. But as someone who's watched it forever, where would you sort of put your thoughts into this?
The Caitlin Clark thing is weird. It's always going to be weird. Like, I don't understand why a group of individuals have championed her the way that they have when she has no interest in being championed by them. But the growth of the league has really, I think they're finally starting to take advantage of things they didn't take advantage before. My biggest knock on the league has always been, and I understand this is a very, very, very fine balance in leagues, businesses, radio shows. It's a very fine line of delivering what the people who love you want, your paying customer wants, while still attracting new customers. And for so long, they appealed to one singular group. Every year, the WNBA promo would come out and it be whatever girl record was out. Power girl, it's just whatever dumbass pop record. It's like, okay, this doesn't explain the league. That's not what this league is. Like, you have tried to make the league this. That's not what it is. The the use of social media, the allowing these women to become stars through social media with their walk-ins and all of that different stuff helps create different. Angel isn't just a star because of what she does on the floor. Angel's a star because of what she does off the floor and what she's embracing off the floor. NILs in college have helped with that stuff. The play has always been there, but man, it feels like these women are getting better and better and better every year. Like Asia is already in the conversation for one of the greatest of all time, and that is ridiculous. Like she could stamp this out as the greatest of all time. And James, I think you said this great at the beginning of what you were talking about a second ago. We're at the beginning. This is the beginning of the explosion of the WNBA. And there is so much more ahead because Angel's going to get bigger. Caitlin is going to get even bigger. And then you got Juju coming in a couple of years. You got Paige Beckers on her way in. You've already got people like Sabrina and Asia kind of bookmarking this thing. Like this is the highest level of superstar athletes the league has ever had. The league has never had this many superstars in its league at one time.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too, because it feels like if they do this right, if they all pull together, and if they allow themselves to like take a step back and say, like, look, the next generation of NBA players are going to look a lot more like Steph Curry, right? The next generation of NBA players have always looked like the great players that are now gone, right? You always have this progression. Like I wish that like some of the stars at WNBA right now, the aging stars, would embrace that there's a Caitlin Clark and there's a a Sabrina and all of these players and an Angel because of them, because they've fallen in love with the WNBA and realize that they can go be professional basketball players and embrace the fact that they blaze this trail, and this is a natural progression of leagues. You blaze a trail, but then the next generation is better, and the next generation after that, it's better, and its specific players are better, but the overall feel of the game changes so much. We talked about it today. Like James Harden is quietly going to become the number 2 3-point shooter of all time this season. He'll pass Ray Allen, and that's just wild. It's wild that James Harden shot over 1,000 3-pointers in a game. And it's because that's the generation that like we just keep seeing the game evolve and morph. And I think the WNBA right now is in one of its first initial evolve and morph into something bigger moments, and they're fighting it. And you're like, stop fighting it. It's okay. It's okay to like let everyone have success and just roll with this thing and let's all succeed together, as opposed to like the petty infighting and weirdness that we've had some of this stuff, some of this year.
Yeah, I think to a certain degree, I agree with everything both of you guys said, but to a certain degree, it's out of the WNBA's hands. What is going to happen and why they're going to go to another level is the culture of basketball, and the culture of women's basketball is on fire right now. Talked about it a little bit earlier. The WNBA ain't gonna have to. They ain't gonna worry about creating no stars. There are stars who I talk like my girl Special K. I talk about her all the time. She's a sophomore in high school. She's a star. She's a star, a social media star. Everybody that follows basketball in that culture, they know who Special K is down there in Southern California. The moves she makes, the way she plays, all this other stuff. That's something they didn't have 15 years ago. It was up to the
Some people know coaches that went to visit her this week.
Oh,
I'm just saying some people. I'm just saying some people. Just some people.
Well, you dropped the bomb on me. Gap band. Well, let's go. Let's go.
Yeah, but like
that's my girl. That's my girl right there. She can go. But like, it's not going to be up to the WNBA. It's all done for them. It's almost like the NBA. It's all done for you because these young ladies are going to be stars. The problem in the past was the WNBA had to create these stars. They don't have to do that no more. These young ladies are stars coming in, and all they got to do is just keep giving them a platform. College basketball, 10, 15 years ago, it was UConn.
Yeah.
That's it. And because it was UConn, to a certain degree, nobody wanted to watch college basketball because it was just UConn all the time. You'd get your Baylors in there every now and then. Maryland won one time, all this other stuff. But it was just UConn. Now, we talked about this all last year. There was like 20 teams that we were like, yo, they could go. They might be able to do it. And that helps build your sport as well. The WNBA ain't going to have to do nothing. They just going to have to make sure the TV deal is good.
Well,
make sure you got all this other stuff, and they'll be there. Because
I disagree a little bit. They can't screw it up.
Well, don't
like that, and that's I still think that's a little bit of a taller task for this league than it is for the NBA, right? And I'll go back to it because I think it's one of the best lines I've heard about the growth of the WNBA was Cheryl Reeves. When that preseason game with Angels' first game against Minnesota wasn't aired properly on League Pass, she's like, sometimes I'm fearful that this league isn't equipped to handle its own growth. And that is a terrifying statement from a woman who knows this league. And it feels like they've corrected that, as best as you can through the course of a season. But those are things that stick in my head a little bit.
No, very fair. I'll say they can't be stopped this time because in the past,
I hear you.
In the past, they don't air her first game. It's just lost. People are like, I don't care if they're not airing it. I want to see Angel. Somebody put it on your live.
It on Twitter. Yep.
I want to see Angel. I'm gonna find a way.
2 million people watched a WNBA fan's video because she saw. I can't remember if it was Brittany. She saw someone tweet that how come this game isn't on? So, and then she started saying that League Pass forgot to put the game on, and so she streamed it. And players, coaches, general managers from around the league, as well as like 2 million fans, were watching this girl's live stream because it was the only availability for that Sky Lynx game.
And that's the difference between now and then, because I'm just saying a name. I love this lady, but Yolanda Griffin wasn't the star. Where if her game wasn't on air, people aren't going to be like, where do I find it? What do I have to do to watch it? It's just going to go into the abyss. Now these young ladies are stars, are superstars, where if you're not providing the platform, they're going to find the platform so they can see these young ladies. And all they got to your point, get out the way, don't mess it up, and just provide the platform. Get your media rights deal and everything you need to do so they can be seen, and just don't mess it up. That's it.
Yeah, it's tough too because they're leaving so much talent out of the league. And, even like someone who doesn't watch a lot of women's basketball, I can tell you, like, their first round picks who don't make teams.
Right.
And then they're just out of the league, right? And then we watch the Olympics. Man, there are incredible players overseas. Incredible. I like, holy cow. Look at how good some of the other countries are. Like, there is unlimited, untapped potential everywhere for the WNBA. They just have to find a way to grow as fast as they can without doing it in a silly way and without losing their way. But like, they need to get more teams in the league so more people can have like a hometown feel for, what's my team. And I wish, like, again, Sacramento loved the Monarchs, and it's a turnkey operation. You just have to shell out the money, and you've got to convince them that you'll
that's the other part, convincing the league. For some reason, the league didn't need convincing with Portland, but they did with Sacramento. So frustrating.
Ham brings up a great point, though. WNBA hadn't even got to the point where they tap into the rest of the world yet. And once they get to that point, and like maybe the rest of the world picks up, because it's different.
A lot of those girls do play in the league. I think people got thrown off by the fact a lot of them, when you have Olympic years, they don't come. It's like, okay, so there's an Olympic break. Okay, you can't go play 30 games in the WNBA. We need you here to train with this team. So a lot of the players that people were just fascinated over during that. They are in the league.
Right.
They just haven't
Good
been
call.
this year. And there are so many more eyes. And it's not, shade. There's so many more eyes on it this year.
Mhm.
Maybe you just didn't recognize that they are in the league. But that's right now. And this is where I think we'll see things change. Right now, the W isn't like that same level of priority. It's like, I gotta go play for my country, and then I'll go make that money in the second half of the season or whatever.
Yeah,
Hey,
no,
James,
like, go ahead.
no, I wanted to ask because I want to hear what you think about this because you've been here the entire time. We know what you would do if you could choose one of the sports. What do you think if you put a vote to the city and they say you can only have one, MLS, MLB, or WNBA? What do you think they pick?
I think that Sacramento's a baseball town. And maybe I'm wrong, but I do. I mean, I think it's a soccer town, and I think it was a great WNBA town. But I also just look around. How many people do you see wearing Giants hats? How many people do you see wearing A's hats all the time? I mean, it is a.
And he wears Yankees hats. He wears Orioles hat. Anyone the Giants are playing, he wears their hat.
Oh man, come on.
I know. Well, we had
Crazy.
Abe today and talking White Sox, and the White Sox are probably the worst team in the history of professional sports.
Well,
I mean, they've got
that was a disaster. They've
got 31 wins on the season, and check this out: since July 1st, the A's are 31-22. The A's, who are not good, have the same amount of wins as the White Sox in the entire season in the last 2 months.
They had the same amount of wins as the Utah Jazz did last year.
That's crazy.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Again, why not have all three?
I don't think you are, Hammer. I didn't make an argument, but I did pose a question. We forget sometimes that time passes, and the Monarchs were 15 years ago. And what investment would a 25 to 30-year-old have in the Sacramento Monarchs? They don't have the same warm, fuzzy feelings that we do about that team, about how good they were, about the 2005 WNBA championship. And the league wasn't then what it is today. So it was special for our city. I'll never forget that arena being, sold out to the final seat. I'll never forget how loud it was when that buzzer went off. That was a long time ago. That championship was 19 years ago. The folding of that team was 15 years ago.
You know what's crazy? You could easily have all three. And I'm not saying like pie in the sky. Again, it takes someone in the league office of the WNBA saying yes to the return of the Monarchs and them just playing at Golden One. It takes the A's having their situation just fall through. And it takes this one whale that can purchase the team and build the stadium for soccer. And again, look at the baseball, like it's going to take private. Somebody's going to have to come in and build the new baseball stadium. But I've even heard that's on its way to being lined up. So it's possible that all three could happen. And that's not even being like overly optimistic. This could be a 4-sport town very quickly.
I'd pass it.
You look like Malik against the Lakers.
What would that mean for us?
Oh man, that'd be great business for ESPN 1320.
That's right.
Well, we're done. Football is back tomorrow.
Football's back tomorrow, baby.
Football is back tomorrow, and D'Lo and KC are back at Sky River Casino this Monday, 32 Brew Street. The food, the drinks, the infamous moments like James Ham leaving the stage to go to the bathroom after multiple beers. All of that is back this Monday, as is 49ers football. We hope that you will join us. 32 Brew Street inside Sky River Casino. We will kick off the next NFL season tomorrow, beginning at 10 a.m. It's time to be serious, boys. All the goofing off is over. Football is back, beginning at 10 a.m. tomorrow with the Insiders on Sacramento Sports Leader, ESPN 1320.
Vamos Monarchs.